Hi, it's Stephen here at Bland Designs, and today I thought I would work on the Mission Inspiration Challenge for June of 2017. This comes from, of course, Mike Deacon, and I've spoken about Mike Deacon before, and every month he puts out a new challenge for art journaling. So this month he's got his challenge right here, and he's got 8 things that we're supposed to put on this page. He says to glue down paper or fabric fragments for texture, and for that I think I'm going to use some of my Tim Holtz tissue for that. I think I'll be tearing that up and sticking it down. And then he says add texture paste, stencils optional. So I've got this stencil right here, and I'm thinking I might do sort of a pattern with that, and I might mix in some of the colors. He's got blue, yellow, and green this month are the colors. So I might do a little bit of tinting of my texture paste. And the paints I'm going to use, because I haven't used these in quite a while, are my Delusion paints. There's a green, there's a yellow, and a blue. So we'll try those. And then he says to cover with a thin layer of paint or gesso and add a focal image or images. And these caught my eye. These come out of an illustrated children's book, and I just like them, and I'm going to kind of incorporate those into the page. The words he's using here as inspiration are hope, promise, meditate, grow, and chance. So I think I'm kind of looking at the words hope and grow in this as my theme. Then he says stamp script or add paper strips. Well, I've pulled out some Tim Holtz script stamps, and I might use both of these in here. This one looks like columns from an old newspaper, and this is sort of old text, sort of kind of text you might find in an old children's book, fairy tale book. That's what it kind of reminds me of. So I think it'll go nicely with these pictures. And then he says add washi tape or paper strips. So I went to my stash, and I have found this one's got some butterflies on it, and this one's got more script and postmarks, and I think it'll go with the tissue paper well. Then he says make marks and or add splatters and finish with a border frame of your choice. So not sure what I'll do with those yet, but anyways, these are the elements I'm going to be working with. And I've already gessoed the pages in my journal, and this is actually almost second to last pages in this journal, and then this journal is finished, it's full. So it might be nice after I do finish this journal to go through it and look at how my style has changed, if it has at all, and if I've gotten any better or worse, I don't know. Anyways, we're going to start off with laying down the paper, in this case tissue paper, and I really like this tissue paper. But I'm not sure. I think I'm going to have to do some ripping here. So I'm going to put maybe this one here, and I've just ripped it in half. That's kind of large. I'll maybe rip off a little bit more of this. I thought of doing it in just random pieces ripped up, but I'm thinking I want a lot of the images here to show up. So I'm going to lay it down 2 big strips from one side to the other side. And in this space that I have left, this may be where I will do my texture paste. I'm just wondering, I wonder if I go this way. And this one maybe this way. But I like that better. And move my texture paste more on the outside here, because I am going to put down my images. So one image is going to go across here. Let's change these around. just thinking out loud here, where to put the texture paste. Yeah, I think I'll put this one because I need a flat area, fairly flat area for my image. And the other images. So yeah, I'm going to put them this way. Okay, so I'm going to get out my trusty matte gel. And got a brush. And just put a fairly generous amount on, because this is a fairly large piece that I'm going to be gluing down here. Okay. And I will let it hang over the edges just a little bit. I'll trim those off afterwards. Okay, and then I'm going to put this one down. I'll go over the top of this again with the matte gel once I get this piece on. Trying to avoid as many wrinkles this time as I can, but it doesn't really matter if I get wrinkles. Oops. Yeah, I got a bit of a wrinkle there, but that's okay. It's because this is just background anyways, but alright, so then I'm going to go over everything. I'm not putting this on too thick, I just want to make sure it's sealed. Okay, I think I'm sealed, so I'm going to go off camera, hit this with the heat tool, and then come back and carry on. Okay, so I've got my pages dry right now, and I've trimmed the edges of the paper that were over top of the edges of the page off, and now it says to add texture paste. Stencil's optional. I think I will use stencil, and I'm going to use this one. And my image is going to go down in here, so I think I'll put a little up here. Another image over here, so I think I'll put some down in here. Maybe just a tiny bit along the top. I was thinking of tinting my texture paste, but I've got this idea when it says, because the next step after this it says cover with a thin layer of paint or gesso. I think I might make a glaze out of my paints and go all over the page with the glazes, so they'll be a little bit more transparent, and that'll color this texture paste as well, because this is transparent matte texture paste by Ranger, and so it'll dry clear. So let's get this on. And since I'm just interested in adding some texture, I'm not too worried about how complete I get the texture paste on here. And I'm not putting it on very thick. And I think I'll put a little bit up here in the top section as well. Oops, part of my stencil's kind of bent up there, but again, that won't be that noticeable, so I'm not going to worry about it. This happens with stencils, especially ones that are fairly intricate like this one. You get little pieces that sometimes pop up on you. And that's just the nature of the beast. Don't need to get too upset about that. Okay. That's enough texture paste. And so I'm going to wash off my stencil and hit this with the heat gun to dry, and then I'll come back to add some color. Okay, my texture paste is now dry, and it's pretty transparent. You can't really see it, but that's okay, because now I'm going to add some color here, and that's the third step, is to cover with a thin layer of paint or gesso. So I'm going to use paint, and I'm using the Delusions paints simply because I haven't used those in quite a while, and I'm going to make them into a glaze. And this is what I'm going to use. This is I just got this. I haven't really tried it yet, but it's gloss glazing liquid. So you mix it with this and it becomes a glaze. And what a glaze is basically paint that is very transparent. Now this paint's already pretty runny, so I probably don't need too much of it. Move this out of the way. So I'm not sure how much of this I should use. Maybe it would help if I read the side of the bottle. What's it say? Directions. Use alone or blend with acrylic colors in any ratio. Useful for wet. In wet blending improves brushability. Okay. Do not apply too thickly. Dry completely before recoating to avoid lifting. Do not use as a varnish. Okay. So basically it says you can use as much of it as you want. So I want this to be fairly transparent, so I'm going to mix in quite a bit of it. And, okay, so there's my blue. Better get a baby wipe. And clean off my palette knife. Messy, messy on my fingers too. And let's get out some yellow. There's some little dried bits here. I should probably put the lid back on this paint. So, if you've never used the Delusions paint before, it is very, very thin. Well, in terms of its consistency, it's already very runny. You can see I'm being very generous with this glazing liquid. One thing too about the Delusions paints is, even though I'm adding what is essentially a clear medium to it, really it's not changing the color. The color's retaining its brilliancy. Ooh, this one's a little tight. Oh, maybe I still got seal on it. Yeah, I do. Still have the seal on it. That might be why I'm having a little bit of a problem. It's a jar I've never opened before. There we go. Clean off the palette knife. Oh, I should have been wiping this stuff into my wipe-off journal. Let me just grab it. Forget that I've started this. This is where I take all my extra product and just throw it on some pages, so I'm not wasting it. So now the green. Alright, now, according to his colors, my blue and my yellow and the green are not the same shade as what he has, but that's okay. But I'm wondering, I've got yellow and green in here. I don't have any blue, but that's okay, because yellow and blue go together. Of course, yellow and blue together make, what, an orange? Don't they? Let me just try a little thing here. Wipe off my palette knife. And just take a little yellow into the blue. No, yellow and blue make green. Yeah, what am I thinking? Okay. Well, let's get out a brush. And let's I'm not really and you can't really see this, so what I'll do is I'll move things around a little bit. And so all I'm doing is I'm just putting kind of it on in random swipes. I'm using a dry brush as well for this. Let's try a little bit of the yellow. I'm really not concerned with trying to cover solidly the whole page. Okay. I think I'll use the blue very sparingly because it's going a little, it's turning to green, of course, with the yellow, which is okay because I don't really have any blue in my backgrounds. Okay, I'm just going to leave that. I'll dry that in a minute, but I'll take the what I have left over and I'm just going to spread it into this, what I call my wipe-off journal. And someday this will become a journal with background pages already done and waiting to put things on. Okay. I'll set that aside to dry, and this I'm going to hit with the heat tool, and then I'll come back for the next stage. Now I'm going to deviate a little bit from the instructions from the prompt, because up in here you really can't see the pattern all that clearly, and I want it to stand out a little bit more. Also, I have this one image that has sort of an orangey color to it, so I want to incorporate that color into this. So I've got a Pitt pen here. This is Indian ink, and it stays wet for a few seconds after you've applied it, and I'm going to try and just rub it over this texture that's here to see if anything will come out. And actually, it is working. Not too badly at all. So that adds a little bit of that color into the page. Maybe run a little bit down into here too, even though there's no texture paste here, just to get some of that. Got kind of a straight line happening here. I don't want a straight line. I want it to look a little bit more organic. Okay. So that adds a little bit of that orange into my page. And what I'm going to do next is, I think I'll use this stamp. It's this one. This is, by the way, from Stampers Anonymous, newsprint and type CMS 266, if you're interested. And I think I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to stamp it in a deeper orange as well. So I need to get my Stays On ink for that. Normally I would just do it in black, but because I want some of that orangey color in, yeah, Orange Zest, that's what I'm going to use. And I'm using Stays On because I've got a lot of material on here that might repel a dye-based ink. These are solvent ink, so they should not be repelled. And I'm not going to use an acrylic stamp for this. I'm just doing it freehand because I'm not that concerned about how clear an image I get. That's pretty good. And I was thinking of using the other stamp, this newsprint one, and I think I will, just for some variety. And I think I'll try and stamp a little bit of this one on top of the texture paste as well. Just another layer of texture. It won't really show up all that much, but that's okay. I'm getting out of shot here, sorry. Okay, I think that does that. And I'm going to give this a blast with the heat tool, just to make sure the ink is set. And then we'll move on to the next. Now the next step in this, and I actually reversed two of the steps, the next step should have been to put down the focal images and then do your stamping with some script, but I wanted the script more in the background, so I just switched the two steps, and that's okay, it's just a suggestion. So these are my two images, and I've kind of laid them out here where I approximately want them. Sorry about the glare on the one edge here, and I'm just going to use gel matte medium, there's gel matte medium, to glue them down. Now, I think for this, I'll put the gel matte medium on the back of these, so I'm going to get out a piece of deli paper just to use as my work spot. And put it in the general area. This is another reason why I use the Stays On ink, because it doesn't come off on a wet medium. It gets onto it. I want to leave a little bit, or no I don't, because that's got a straight edge. I was going to say I was going to leave a little bit for a border, because I have to put a border on here, but I think I'll push that right to the edge. And then we'll seal it. Okay, so I've got that one on. And now we'll do the same over here. If you put your matte medium on the back of the piece you're going to be sticking down to the page, as well as a layer on the page itself, it will help avoid wrinkles to a certain extent. Doesn't always, but it does help. The book that I cut these out of, the page, is a fairly glossy page, so the paper itself is very thick, so less chance of wrinkling as well. But if I get a wrinkle here or there, again, I just look at that as adding textures, not going to bother me. Okay, have I missed any spots? I think I've got it. Okay, so I've got those two images down. Now, it also says to add, in the next step, add washi tape for paper strips. So, I'm not a big fan of washi tape. One, it doesn't usually stick very well. And I'm not sure where I want to put this. Maybe I'll cut off that extra bit later, and I think I will go over this with some the matte gel. And I'm just tearing it off. I'm not worried about straight edges. And then this one's got some script. Now I got to find the edge of this. That's always a bit of a pain. Oh, I think that's it right there. Okay. Get a little up here. And yeah, that's all I'm going to put on. Well, maybe another little strip of this. Actually, I had the little yellow butterfly in it, which kind of picks up the color here too, and that was just a fortunate accident. Okay, I'm just going to trim off these little pieces that are over the edge. Oops. Kind of cut into my page. Okay. Well, nobody will notice that. You saw it, but don't tell anybody, okay? And, geez, I'm got sticky everywhere. I can't get this. Washi tape won't stick to the bloody page, but it'll stick to my fingers. Okay. Get off, get off. All right, there we go. Okay, so I think now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit it. I'm going to put a little bit of matte gel medium over top of these washi tape pieces to make sure they stick. And I hit everything with the heat dryer, and then when I come back, we're getting close to the end. It says make marks or add splatters. Okay, well, I'll think about that. Okay, so now my page is relatively dry. It's not completely dry, but it's dry enough to work with. And as I was looking at what's coming next, I thought, well, I should add some words to this. And of course, he has suggested on the prompt these words: hope, promise, meditate, grow, and chance. But I looked through my stash of words and titles, and I found this chipboard cutout that says family. And I thought, you know, that works very well here with this page. So I took it and I grunged it up a little bit with some walnut stain dioxide or distress oxide ink. And I used also a black pit pen on it and just sort of mushed it all about. And I've stuck it down here, I glued it down. And up here, I added this one little word label from the Tim Holtz little words, or whatever they call them, hope. And that's one of the words that they have there. And I just put it up there at the top. And that's all I'm going to do for text on here. But now, the next thing says to make marks or add splatters. I'm going to try an experiment. I don't know how this is going to work. I have in my stash some glitter, homemade glitter. So this was actually rock candy glitter by Tim Holtz, and I added some alcohol ink to it, the lettuce one actually, because I've written that on the side, and dyed it this color. And I kind of like this color green to go with this page. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to mix it up with some iridescent medium, which is very fluid, and I might have to add a little squirt of water or something to it, and I'm going to splatter this on here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've got this fairy over here, and you know, you always associate fairies with fairy dust, so just to give the page a little bit of bling, a little bit of sparkle, that's what I'm going to add as my splatters. So I'm just going to move this over for a moment so you can see this process. And I've never really done this before, so I have no idea what's going to happen. We'll play together. So, iridescent medium dries clear, but it gives a sheen to things. And I'm putting a fairly generous amount of it in there, and you can see the camera's probably not picking up. There's a little bit of sparkle to it. And then we're just going to add a little of this, and I think I'm going to spritz it with a little water to make it a lot runnier, if my spray bottle will work. This stuff kind of is disappearing in it, but it does dry clear, so it may work. If anything, it's going to give me a little bit of sparkle. I'm putting a fair amount of it in here. Okay, I'm seeing it now. So it will be subtle. So I'll put more, a little more water because I want it to make it really runny so I can splatter it. Okay, now get a fan brush. I'm just going to move this all over to the side so you can see. adding even more water to it. And let's see. I've got a fair amount on here, and right now you can see the drops, but the medium will dry clear. At least I hope it will. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Ooh, got it all over my workbench too, and everywhere. Messy, messy. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to take the heat gun to it. And my theory is that this will dry clear, but leave behind the crystals of the homemade glitter. That's what I'm hoping anyways. Okay, this is going to take a while, so I'm going to dry this off camera and then come back and show you the result. Okay, so my theory about the iridescent medium, using that to splatter the homemade alcohol-based distress glitter, didn't really work. It is on here, but it's very subtle, and I don't know if the light's picking it up or not. There's not a lot of it on here, but I tried, and I actually ended up having to blot some of it off of my pictures because it was going to look horrible. But it's there. When you're up close in real life, see it. You can see these little, they almost look like little ice crystals, but there's not a lot of them on here. So that's an experiment that, worth a shot. Didn't really work that well. The last part was to add a border. So I used some of the oxide inks, the Distress Oxide inks, and I went around the whole edges of the pages, all the edges of the pages, rented lips, and then I just took a Sharpie fine point marker and just did a little scribble border just part way on each side of the page. And I didn't use any real blue in this page, but I took a blue Pitt pen and I just smudged it in around here to create sort of a subtle shadow, just to darken it on one side. So I do have some blue in there, but you really can't tell that it's blue. Okay, so I think this page is done, and I'll get the glare off it so you can see. It's hard to get the glare off it, but I think it turned out not too bad at all. Definitely very grungy, old looking, and that works for me. Okay, great. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.